Welcome to Seniors on the Move. We're brought to you by the Willows at Westboro Retirement Community here in Westboro, Massachusetts. We have a wonderful, interesting guest for you today. His name is Dr. Josef Dellagrotte, and he is a movement educator. He's also a licensed muscular therapist, a certified Feldenkrais practitioner trainer, and we're going to talk about that later. He's also a rehabilitation counselor and a body-centered psychotherapist. He earned his doctorate in psychology and cultural history at Syracuse University. Dr. Dellagrotte has been in private practice in Watertown, Mass. since 1977, when he left an academic career to enter into a therapeutic career that emphasized the value of client movement education. He developed his therapeutic skills with courses in physical therapy and also in Rolfing and the Feldenkrais method. He conducts training programs in the emerging method known as core integration, which I've just learned about, both in Massachusetts and in Europe. His first book is Instructions from Within, and he is currently working on 2 more books. So where do we start? Where do we start? Walking is so important, but you're going to learn a lot more about walking than you didn't know. Tell us about your experience, how you got started and how your interest was piqued.
Well, I don't need to introduce walking. It's the oldest and probably the most premier of human movement activities and exercises. So it's got a 6 million year history. In fact,
wow.
Just to go way back, to give you an historical perspective, geological perspective, our ancestors 6 million years ago who walked upright on 2 legs because it was the most efficient way of moving around. So we have a good track record. Actually, walking works. It's got a very, very good track record. And it's good for the conservation of energy, but it's also a tremendous stimulant to all systems in the body. And recently we've discovered a great stimulant to the brain. In fact, it's probably the most powerful, not just walking, but running and aerobic activity, that kind of movement. So walking fits into the category of activities that actually benefit the brain. And so we'll talk about that at a certain point, which has tremendous implications for dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and a host of other disorders.
Yes. Were we born to run?
No,
not
absolutely
at all?
not.
No?
No. Running is not what we do best. Your dog will outrun you any day of the week.
That's for sure.
So the walking is the primary mode of locomotion.
All right.
And yes, people have learned to run, and we need to run from time to time, and there are some people who cultivate running a little more than others. But for every runner in the world, there's probably 1 million walkers. So you figure.
So you don't recommend walking then for, say, seniors, people over 65?
I don't recommend running. Yeah, I recommend walking.
Okay, so you don't.
Walking is the thing you can do till the day you die. In fact, they still do that in several cultures. They walk every day, even in Switzerland, till the day they die. That's an expression they use.
They do?
Yes.
They do, all right. You mentioned a knee operation when I was talking to you earlier. Could you talk about it?
Interesting, because I was a runner, you see.
Oh, here we go.
I was caught in that wave of those kinds of activities which inevitably have damaging effects on the knee unless you really are trained well or you have the right body configuration. So in my running career, I quickly, well, not quickly, but I ran into a torn meniscus, which happened in 1994, as a matter of fact. And my running career was over. There was no point going. So I took up increased walking and race walking and Nordic walking. And I had always walked. I had always hiked. I had always done these things. But I now actually made it my central activity. So after the surgery, the interesting thing is, while the predictions were that I would go into a deterioration pattern, which was predictable, lateral osteotomy, and then you have a knee replacement, I haven't had any of that. 16 years later, almost, I have no knee problem whatsoever. In other words, I recuperated myself through the walking. The surgery would have left me already with a knee replacement if I had done nothing. So that's the good
Wow.
news. In other words, even though you've had damaged knees, if you walk correctly, you will minimize the stress. Remember I talked about our ancestors. And you minimize the stress to the knee. Most knee problems emanate from the hip. And I can demonstrate this in a moment. You see, when you're walking properly, you're doing this kind of motion. We'll go through that a little. Whereas most people walk like this, and the knee turns in, and they go like this, and they walk like that, and then they have knee problems, hip problems, and low back problems. So there's the good news.
What about people though with foot problems, for instance?
Same thing. The foot is simply an attached system on the chain. So foot problems mean either the foot is too stiff, or it's gotten compressed, or it's gotten into pronation, or it's gone into supination. Various disorders of the feet can be rectified. I have worked with a person with an ankle that was fused, had pain in his ankle, couldn't walk, now has no problem whatsoever. So even a fused ankle can be rehabilitated.
Yes,
and that's the good news, that the body is capable of what's called plasticity. In other words, if you find the right movements, the body's capable of recovery because it has memory patterns and it has a propensity to be well. But you have to know how to do that. So you need education. That's why I'm a movement educator.
Right.
Yes.
So people with severe back problems, it's all alignment. It's about alignment,
Severe
right?
back problems are mostly created by compression. First of all, you see if I sit like this a lot, there's back problems. If I constantly sit like this, that's back problems. Most back problems are traceable again to compression forces. In other words, we're not going up, which means we're not getting enough walking.
Okay.
So in other words, you
sitting.
have the American population, and probably a lot of Western Europe in the cities mostly, we get less than 1/3 of our Paleolithic diet, so to speak.
Wow.
We don't walk as much as our ancestors walked. So we eat more, walk less. That's a problem. That's a problem not only for it's a big problem for the heart, it's a problem generating diabetes, it's a problem generating all kinds of problems that grow out of that. So walking is an activity that actually makes you healthier.
Can you show us how to properly sit? Is there one
sitting.
sitting position for everyone?